Welcome to Front Porch Politics, conservative conversation for a complicated country. And now, your host, the pontificator of common sense and coffee connoisseur, David Marks.
And greetings, my friends. I am David Marks, your coffee connoisseur, common sense educated host holding a PhD in Mayberry Studies, and I'm so glad that you have joined us on the podcast. During the midweek review, we typically try to go over news events that we have, and today we are going to be covering a topic that has become a sore on our country. Now, before we get into that event, I want to remind everyone that if you have not done so, please jump over to davidomarks.com and subscribe to our email mailing list. This will, of course, enter you in for the 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. And we are going to give away on the podcast today our first coffee connoisseur coffee mug. You know, you have that person who has conservative ideas and they love coffee. Well, I mean, you could put anything in there, hot chocolate, whatever you would like. But if you are a coffee connoisseur like I am, and you are a conservative and you love this country, we want to send you one of our complimentary coffee mugs. So we will choose our winner today at the very end of the podcast and congratulate the person who will be the winner. Before we get into our podcast today, though, I want to cover something with you all that this story actually broke this morning, and I read this news story, and I am just so sick and tired of political correctness in our country. Now, as we all know, it is the Christmas season, and one thing I always loved about Christmas was Christmas music. Some of my favorite memories. My dad worked a lot on Saturdays and throughout the week, and on Saturdays during this time of year and most of the year, my mom would always want to clean house, and of course she had us to do that. You know, she taught us the responsibility of having a clean home. All that being said, we would break out in the month of December, we would break out our old dust-covered Christmas albums, and of course we would pop those LPs on the record player. And some of my most fond memories are of a nice warm home where we were working, you know, we were helping clean and whatever it may be, and we would be jamming out to some Alvin and the Chipmunks or Disney's Christmas or Nat King Cole. Well, as part of this, and this is a quick story before I get into our podcast, but if you are like me and you are just fed up with political correctness run amok, let me just give you a quick story. In Cleveland, Ohio, now this is not in San Francisco, California, or some far, far left liberal state, but in Cleveland, Ohio, at WDOK, Christmas 102.1, the name of the station, by the way, they have pulled the song Baby It's Cold Outside from their rotation. Why, you may ask? Because after playing the song, a member of the hashtag #MeToo movement called the radio station and complained and said that the song was a predatory song and had predatory undertones towards women. Here we are in America in 2018, and we can't even enjoy flipping Christmas because we have a bunch of morons out there. Now, number one, if you are the manager or you are in part of the decision staff of WDOK, what the hey are you doing? Before too long, we're not going to be able to listen to Frosty the Snowman because he was white, or we're not going to be able to listen to Santa Claus is Coming to Town because it talks about someone who is overweight. This is getting out of hand. Now, in our last podcast, I had discussed with you how that the Peanuts Thanksgiving cartoon had been seen as racist, and of course I brought up the conversation that before too long these beloved Christmas cartoons like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer will be seen as there will be bullying elements or something like that in the cartoon, and so it'll be seen as PC. We can't listen to it or watch it. Well, a story broke this week, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but a story's broken this week that yes, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I called it. I want to be the first to declare that I called this. Now, I'm sure other people have too, but here recently, I said this was going to happen. The PC police in our country have deemed Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as an inappropriate show. What a joke. These people have lost their mind, and the crazy thing is we have people in management decisions who are listening to them. So if you are like me and you're so tired of political correctness and you are tired of sentimental things like the song Baby It's Cold Outside being pulled from the shelves, we need to stand up. I hope that any of my listeners and all of my listeners, you'll call this radio station and let them know your concerns. Let them know that these hashtag Me Too movement people, you know what? I think I'm going to start calling into news channels, or I think we should, in saying that the hashtag Me Too movement people are sexist and therefore they should not have their stories or their interviews played at all. I'm sure we will not get the same attention. All right, friends, this week's podcast is titled Common Sense Tells Us to Build That Wall. That is a very unpopular subject, I'm sure, but given the events that we have taking place in our country right now, and this being a political podcast for conservatism, I do want you to see that it is important in our country. We are either a country of laws and a country of a border, or we are not. And I want to play you a quick clip just to remind you, during the 2016 race, how the more liberal or the left-leaning party, and I would even say socialist would be a part of it, people feel about the wall.
We will not build a wall. Instead, we will build an economy where everyone who wants a good job can get one.
There you go. Miss Clinton said it herself, that we will not build a wall. So that was part of one of her big political campaign stumping points. And as we know, America actually is a sovereign country, and we are quickly losing this sovereignty. Now, if you are someone who does not believe in conservative ideas, of course you do not want the wall. You think America should have open borders and should let everyone in. But I hope today's podcast will educate you on why that is not a safe idea. So let me first rewind back to the 2016 presidential campaign. And this was a debate that was conducted by Fox's left-leaning host, Chris Wallace. Yes, I do say left-leaning because I feel like that Chris Wallace shows more leftist ideas than anything else.
I want to build the wall. We need the wall. The Border Patrol, ICE, they all want the wall.
Now, that was presidential candidate at the time, Donald Trump. And I do believe, and I feel like it needs to be said, that if he wants to be reelected in 2020, he is going to have to push through to build the wall. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but let me then play for you what Miss Clinton's idea and what the socialist liberal idea is for America and our border security.
What I am also arguing is that bringing undocumented immigrants out from the shadows, putting them into the formal economy, will be good because then employers can't exploit them.
Did you hear that? As an employer, you're the one who's to blame because you're exploiting these poor people who are breaking the law by coming into our country illegally. So then when asked about how she would handle the illegal immigration situation, this is what Ms. Clinton said that she thought would be detrimental to our country.
Home to home, business to business, rounding up people who are undocumented. And we would then have to put them on trains, on buses to get them out of our country. I think that is an idea that is not in keeping with who we are as a nation. I think it's an idea that would rip our country apart.
So having people follow the law doesn't keep with the idea of our nation. Right, Miss Clinton, you are incorrect, because I do feel like most Americans want law to be followed. They want law to be used in appropriate ways, and they want the law to be enforced in appropriate ways. So, and I want to make sure I'm saying in space appropriate ways, not inappropriate. So Ms. Clinton is making the argument that, number one, it is your fault if you're a small business owner. It is your fault if you have employed someone, even if you did it unaware, and you're taking advantage of these people who, by the way, have entered illegally. And right off the bat, what are they doing when they enter? They're breaking the law. We are either a country of laws or we are not. We are either a sovereign nation or we are not. Now, she is blaming the business owners, the small business owners, the large business owners, and saying you're taking advantage of them. And then in the same turn, she's saying that we should not go to home or school to school. Now, I don't think we should go into schools and pull kids. There's not an American who wants to do that. But if they are breaking the law, that, if they're here illegally, let me put it this way. If they're here illegally right off the bat, they're breaking 100% of the law because they're here illegal. Now, to break this down even more, and this is for not just the business owners, but this is for the everyday hard-working person that you are, and I am. Each illegal costs the American taxpayer, that is you and I. You get tired of paying high taxes, I do too, and of course we had tax reform, but taxes still are something that weigh heavy on most people. And we hear people talk about how, the low income, the taxes are burdensome. They're burdensome. We give tax cuts to the rich and they're burdensome. Well, number one, we have proven on the podcast that is not true. But number two, each illegal in the country costs the American taxpayer around $70,000 a year. Now, you may ask, how is this even possible? Because when they're here and they're illegal, we have to pay for health care, education, welfare programs. Yes, I'll get to that in just a moment. And of course, the biggest part, or maybe some of the highest part, is the criminal justice system. So here's what I would like to ask lawmakers. Why? Why do you abandon the American people and force us to pay for those who are breaking the law? Now, I know you're saying, well, we have prison systems. Yes, but the people in prison systems that are American citizens have broken the law, and we have to separate them from society. We have taxes in place to help protect the non-criminal element of American society. So these illegal people are allowed in, and then when they're allowed here, we have to take care of them, and that is your responsibility as an American. That's what our lawmakers tell us. I don't bring home $70,000 a year, so basically my government is thumbing their nose at me, and they're basically telling me that the people who are breaking the law in this country are worth more than I am. Yep. That's exactly how I take that. Now, you may say, well, that's not a very common sense approach to it. Actually, it is. It is the epitome of the common sense approach. If you're a person out there right now working your tail off and you're just trying to make ends meet and you're not making near $70,000 a year in salary, then you should be, like I am, and very frustrated with lawmakers. Now, when President Trump was candidate Trump, the rhetoric we heard from the left was all what? And especially from the socialist side, this Antifa supporting, hashtag everything movement. They said that if you were for enforcing our immigration laws, that you were a racist. How dare you? So because I liked laws to be enforced in my country, they called me a racist. Now, I want you to know the headlines have quickly filled all liberal media that illegals are not draining our financial system, and even headlines that illegals do not get benefits. This is a lie. Remember, the media will lie, and when they can't lie, they'll lie again. So let me just give you some facts, since the media thinks they're so genius in lying to the American people. The U.S. Government Accountability Office, yes, U.S. Government Accountability Office, stated that about $1.1 billion in aid and food stamps benefits were provided to households with illegal aliens. There you go. Also, according to the 2011 U.S. Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration report, illegal aliens who were not eligible to work received $4.2 billion in tax refunds. $4.2 billion in tax refunds, and they were here illegally. Also, the Joint Committee on Taxation scored the bill, and it came out of committee. And the savings for the bill that was given, the new tax plan that was given, said it would save our country $21.7 billion for, and this is the quote, requiring valid Social Security number of at least one taxpayer to claim the refundable portion of the child credit. So they were getting tax breaks illegally here for their children. Do you not see where this creates a problem and why it grows our illegal immigration population. Now, we have also been told, now this is going to be the new House of Representatives. This is going to be what's coming up in January. And we've been told by Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who everyone knows my feelings on her. I do not like socialism and I stand against her. This was her quote when asked about the border wall, because we all know what's going on with the caravan right now. So when asked about the caravan and the border wall and allowing entry to these people, here's what she said. Asking to be considered a refugee and applying for status isn't a crime. No one ever said it was, Alexandria. It wasn't for Jewish families fleeing Germany. It wasn't for targeted families fleeing Rwanda. It wasn't for communities fleeing war-torn Syria, and it isn't for those fleeing violence in Central America. Okay, the only problem with this is this genius obviously doesn't know the United States laws, because according to our laws, if you are offered any kind of refugee status in the first country you come to, you are now ineligible to have refugee status in the United States. And this was done. Mexico offered refugee status to these people. They even offered them education and jobs, and they turned it down. They said they were coming to America. So, number one, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez does not know the law, but she's also going to try to rewrite that law. And of course, America is the evil one for not allowing these people in. Now, we have seen in recent days images of tear gas being fired and used at the border. And the media is trying to show, that when I saw this picture come out, I turned to my wife and I said, yep, this is the picture they were waiting on. This is the gotcha moment that they wanted. This is the image. So, they're wanting to target the current administration as inhumane. But let me give you just a few statistics if I can. Remember, common sense takes the facts, not the media blah, 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 not the media vitriol spew and poo-poo, but it takes the facts and it actually gives you the factual truth. So with common sense and the superpower of common sense, let's take a look at this. Custom and Border Protection agents use tear gas 1.3 times per month on average between 2012 and 2016 under who? Not President Trump, President Obama. That's right. How many times did the media flash up images of these people running away with their kids? These very portly, stocky people who supposedly have walked 2,000 miles and they're malnourished. Doesn't look like it to me, but they're malnourished. Well, the media never covered that. Why? Because, as we all know, President Obama was their sweetheart. He was their second coming. Now, there was not one story about President Obama doing this, at least not in most of the major news networks like CNN or MSNBC. U.S. Customs and Border Protection had used 2CS, which is the chemical compound that they used in the tear gas, since 2010 and deployed it 26 times in the fiscal year 2012, 27 times in 2013. Pardon me. Now, let me just say this. This is the same gas that was used in Waco, Texas for the Branch Davidians. That's the same gas that President Obama used, and probably the same one still being used today. Okay, it's tear gas. Now, why does common sense tell us we need a wall? I've given you statistics on how much money they take from our country. I've given you statistics on how the media is lying to you and lying to me about the story that's actually being told. I've also given you points that President Trump said he wanted to build the wall, and Ms. Clinton said we will not build the wall. And I think that's part of this whole Russian collusion thing too. They're just trying to make President Trump be neutered, and they're trying to neuter his presidency. That's the best way I know how to put it. And they're trying to make him invalid. And with the House of Representatives, it's not going to happen now. It's just not, with the House going to the Democrat Party. And Paul Ryan, you should be ashamed of yourself. What a terrible leader. I'm glad he's gone, but honestly, we should have put someone with some backbone and some fortitude in that position as Speaker of the House and sent Ryan to the House packing, because he is spineless. I'm talking about spineless. He had the opportunity to get legislation done to keep you and I safe as Americans, and he did not. Now, he'll probably get in his car that's driven by a driver, drive to his gated community, they'll lock the gate, he'll lock the door, turn on his security system, and he'll be safe and cozy in his home. But yet when it comes to the front door of our country, he doesn't want to put a gate up. He wants to allow everyone in. So he's just spineless. It just makes me so mad. So why does common sense tell us that we need the wall? You may ask that question. Number one, we have a legal means to enter our country. Anyone who wants to come here, there is a legal process that you can follow to come into our country. We have laws that allow you to do that. Number two, illegal immigration is a drain on our taxpayers and our social programs. Look, if you are someone who has a parent or grandparent, or you yourself are of the age of Social Security, or if you are someone who is working as best you can as a single mom or a single dad, or a grandparent as far as that's concerned, and the government helps you with the benefits that it needs to be given to, the monies that need to go out, people who are trying their best and they still need assistance, your resources are being drained by spending $70,000 a year per illegal immigrant. That is what is wrong. That is why it is draining our country. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, well, you're just incompassionate. You don't want to help people. Look, we're either a country of citizens that we help, or we're a country of the world. And that's what they're trying to make us become. The United Nations wants us to become this because they have their own little initiative with the open door policy, and the rest of the world. You know, they want us to be like the European Union, where we allow people to flow in and out. But let me tell you why that, more than just financial risk, why that is dangerous, okay? Because the number three reason why I tell you common sense tells us that we need border security, and I feel like we need the wall, we need something that will stop people from coming in illegally, is because this poses a future risk. Yes, it poses a future risk. Now, mom and dad, if you're out there listening and you have young children, you need to listen up. If you do not want the wall, let me question your validity of your thought, because common sense, I hope, will show you why you are putting your children and yourself, mind you, but you're putting your children at risk. So a health department spokesman said that out of the 6,000 migrants that were in the city of Tijuana, 1/3 of them, that's 2,267 to actually give a total number, are being treated for health-related issues, including confirmed cases of tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS, and of course chickenpox. In addition, hundreds of individuals have lice and several have skin infections. Now you may say, well, that doesn't bother me. They're bringing in communicable diseases into our country, and they're going to spread that. Our founders and our past generations made people go through a screening process before they come here. And I know Miss Clinton says, we are a country of immigrants, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? We are a country of immigrants, but there was a screening process to get here. You were screened before you left Europe, and then you were screened when you arrived in America. And if you shown that you couldn't take care of yourself or you had a communicable disease, they sent you back. That's my point. Now, you may say, well, you're just incompassionate and the law provides. Well, let me tell you a little bit about the law. You know, it's funny that people who don't want to follow our law and don't want to call people illegal, they want to say they're people in the shadows and the hidden people. But let me tell you, if we're going to actually talk about the law, let's do that for just a moment, shall we? Under Section 212A1A of the Immigration and National Act, okay, the first grounds of inadmissibility to the United States is as follows, and this is what it says, and some of this I'll paraphrase, but you can find it on our website at davidomarch.com. Any alien, this means anyone who is trying to come into our country. 1, who is determined in accordance with regulations prescribed by the Secretary of Health and Human Services to have a communicable disease of public health significance. So you're going to tell me that tuberculosis and AIDS is not of public health significance, and these are the reasons why people cannot be allowed into our country. So right off the bat, rule number 1 of Section 212A1A of the Immigration and Nationality Act has absolutely taken out over 2,000 people. They should not be allowed into the country, period. Because they're going to come here and they're going to drain our system, but our law states they cannot come in. Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, open a dang book instead of reading your Marxist manifesto. Yes, I know, my last name is Marx. Different family. Thanks. Second part, it says that except as provided in subparagraph C, who seeks admissions as an immigrant or who seeks adjustment of status of the status of an alien lawfully admitted for the permanent residence and has filed a present document of having received vaccinations against vaccine preventable diseases. If they have not been vaccinated, they cannot enter, and they must have a waiver that allows them that is cleared. Okay, so here's some of the following diseases they must have vaccinations against: mumps, measles, rubella, polio, tetanus, and influenza type B and hepatitis B. Guess what? Those in the caravan, they have those diseases. There you go. Rule number 3, who is determined. These are reasons, by the way, by our law that people cannot be allowed into our country. Okay? In accordance with regulations prescribed by the Secretary of Health and Human Services in consultation with the Attorney General, to have a physical or mental disorder and behavior associated with the disorder that may pose or has posed a threat to property, safety, or the welfare of aliens or others or people in this country. Who is determined, by the way, to be a drug abuser or addict. There you go. So as we're looking at this, it also says to have a physical or mental disorder. Physical disorder covers all of this. To have a physical or mental disorder and a history of behavior associated with the disorder. So if these people have any kind of history of any kind of disease, they're not allowed into the country. And as we know already that of the 6,000, 1/3 of them should not even be allowed in. That should be an automatically rejection letter. Very quickly, swiftly given, rubber stamp, bam, rejected. But I guarantee it wasn't. Now, the last reason why I think we need the border wall, and common sense tells us, is because of crime. Yes, crime. It has been recorded that there are over 600 confirmed criminals, and I've actually heard a higher number than that, but pulling from documentation, there's over 600 confirmed criminals in the caravan of 2,000 that first arrived at our border. 600 out of the, 2,000. You know, the choice is simple here, folks. We are either a sovereign nation, we either have sovereignty as a nation, or we do not. We have laws, and they should be enforced. If I drive fast and an officer pulls me over and gives me a ticket, it's because I broke the law. His job is to enforce the law, right? Well, why are we not enforcing the law on immigration? Because we do have a legal process. Now, as I stated earlier, I do not expect the House to move forward with any legislation to enforce and protect our borders. So as 2020 starts to roll around, you're going to have my prediction. Hey, I called it right on Rudolph. I'm just saying, and I'm going to hinge on that. But we will see if any legislation comes through that actually protects American citizens. I guarantee you it will not. If there is any legislation that comes through, it's going to be against American citizens, and it's going to be against those who come here legally, and it's going to be for those who break our laws, have diseases, and come here illegally. That's what's going to happen. And as I said earlier, I'm frustrated with Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan, you probably will never listen to my podcast because I don't really consider you a conservative. You may carry a Republican badge, and as I've stated several times, this podcast is not about a political party. It is about common sense conservatism. Because any political party, as we know, can change. If you don't believe that, just look at some of the dang Republicans in Washington. What a joke. Paul Ryan is one of those. And what they'll do is they run on a Republican ticket because they know that's how they should be elected in their state, and they feel like that's their best chance of winning. And then when they get to Washington, they absolutely sit on their hands and they show liberal mentality. And I'm sorry, I'm a conservative, both fiscally and morally and politically. I'm a conservative, and conservatism tells us in America we need a wall. We need better border security. As we're wrapping up our podcast this week, I do want to also again remind you to go to davidlmarch.com, join our email list, subscribe to our podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. We're on several different platforms, and now we actually have our own platform where you can go to and listen to the show. But before I leave you for this week, Santa Claus is still okay on Front Porch Politics, and Santa Claus has come to town. And at this time, we would like to announce the winner of our first Coffee Connoisseur coffee mug in our 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. And that winner is Alex Woods from Jacksonville, Alabama. Congratulations, Alex. You will be receiving a Coffee Connoisseur coffee mug absolutely free. Invite your joins to sign up and subscribe. I hope that you all have a great week. And as always, may God bless you and the United States of America.
Thank you for listening. For free resources, additional podcasts, and to join the Front Porch newsletter, please visit davidlmarks.com.